as we welcome in Curtis Wilkerson of HOF Sports. I know you're going from a guest to just a caller, man, but you got a lot of pressure on you after that call, buddy.
Yeah, I do. I'm feeling the heat a little bit. I got to tell you, Leonard just made a Cowboys fan out of me if I wasn't already. That was impressive. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
He's getting after it. Well,
got me convinced. They may end up going 5-12, but he got me convinced they're going to be good.
Curtis, I know a lot of people, you mentioned the term fired up. There's a lot of Arkansas fans that are fired up about the addition of assistant coach Keith Smart. I mean, you look at his NBA experience, you look at the shot he hit in the 1987 national championship. I mean, how excited should Arkansas fans be with the addition of Keith Smart?
Well, I got to tell you, they should be really excited. I mean, I don't really see a way to look at this without calling it a home run hire. I mean, I don't know how many college staffs you can look at that can say they have two former NBA head coaches. I think on one hand, you're probably not going to get out coached too often. I mean, this is a guy, you talked about his experience, playing and then also coaching, through the NBA. It's a guy who was a finalist for the Indiana job not too long ago. So, when the news came out, the first reaction from a lot of people was, wow, I remember that name. And then secondly was, can he recruit? Because he hasn't necessarily had that experience as a college coach. But, listen, he may not have that experience doing it, as some others, but his resume, I think, really sells itself. When you ask a recruit at this point what their ultimate goal is, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, hey, I want to go pro. I want to get to the league. So, you say that to Arkansas now, and you're sitting across the table from two guys who've been there, done that. They have the connections that can get you there. I was able to reach out to a handful of those 2022 guys that Arkansas was targeting last night, and obviously, they're impressed and they're excited to start building relationships with them. So definitely it seems like a good thing.
Yeah. Curtis Wilkerson with us here on the Morning Rush. When you look at this staff and you look at the history with the Musselman, there's consistently been turnover. Clay Mosier's going to enter a third year, which is kind of rare air for Musselman. Is this something we're going to continue to see? Will Keith Smart be a guy that potentially will be here in a couple of years, and the rest of this staff? What are your thoughts and opinions on the length of stay with some of Musselman's staff historically?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a pattern that's developed, going back to his time at Nevada. It's a lot of turnover with the coaching staff, and, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. For one, he's had a lot of success, and when you do well, your teams get out there and they perform, and it builds a brand, and teams are going to start plucking those assistant coaches. I mean, that's just kind of how it works. And then, we know that Eric Musselman is a unique guy, and he's got a ton of energy, and you got to be able to match that. So, that might not be for everybody. And I think it's interesting that you take a look at how he's building the staff for this year, and he's getting a lot more familiarity, guys that he's coached before, worked with before. They're guys that are coming in here knowing what to expect. So, would it surprise me if we see more turnover here in the future? No. I mean, we've seen plenty of that so far, but I do think it's telling that he's getting some more familiarity in there, and it might lead to some longer stays for guys, which, again, could only be a good thing moving forward.
And another place of turnover is obviously the roster and the use of the transfer portal. I believe there's still two scholarships or 2 spots left with this team. What are the needs right now? When you analyze and look at the roster, the young players coming back, what does this team need to plug into those last couple of spots?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's fascinating. When you look at this roster at this point, I mean, to me, it kind of feels like any other additions. It's just adding icing to the cake, right? I mean, I get asked quite a bit about big men. Is Arkansas going to add another forward? You look at it at this point, Justin Smith is gone, Ethan Henderson, Baby, those guys are both transferring. Cole obviously backed out. He's off to Oklahoma now with David Patrick. So the front court does seem a little bit thin, so there's some guys out there who I think could fit the mold. And I think it would benefit them maybe to add a forward, but you got to remember where the roster is trending moving forward to next year. And basketball is changing. You think about that Baylor team that Arkansas played in the Elite Eight, and in my opinion, that's kind of the blueprint of what we're going to see a lot more of moving forward. A lot of those 4-guard lineups, playmakers on the perimeter, and that's why you see Arkansas connected still at this point to so many of those combo guards and big wings. So, I think they could benefit from adding a forward, and they might. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see another guard added to the roster. I guess the good news is they have 2 scholarships. They could really take care of both.
Curtis Wilkerson, Hog Sports, with us here on the Morning Rush, talking Keith Smart and this Arkansas basketball team. Curtis, you just mentioned the additions that you're hoping to see, and I'm kind of with you. I think they need to add another front court player, but we've already seen a couple departures. Is there anyone that Arkansas fans should keep an eye on in regards to, hey, they might not be with the program when they start basketball this upcoming fall?
Well, you never want to say never, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast with the transfer portal at this point. You know, as much as we see guys coming in, you see guys going out, and it's a lot different than it used to be. You know, in the past, if a guy was going to transfer out, it was usually because there was coaching turnover or maybe a strained relationship there, or a lot of times it was about playing time. They want to go somewhere and get more opportunity. But, now you're seeing guys who are hitting the portal who were, starters playing 30 minutes a game, averaging, 20 points per game. You look at a guy like Remy Martin from Arizona State who just hit the portal. This is a guy that averaged 19 points per game in the Pac-12 last year. And if he doesn't wind up going pro, would probably be expected to build on that. So, you never say never. I think when you really look for those kind of things, it's right after the season. We saw Desi and Ethan hit the portal pretty quick after that. And then again, kind of right after finals, once that semester ends. And obviously we saw that with Iola. So, I think at this point it seems pretty solid, but you never know. Once these guys get home, other options come up. You start hearing from more friends and family. You kind of get away from everything and get to reset. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I think they're in a pretty decent spot right now with what they have.
Curtis, you got Arkansas and Oklahoma meeting Tulsa this year. Maui Invitational next year, but I know a lot of eyes will also be on the Arkansas games where they'll participate in the Hall of Fame Classic in the Sprint Center in Kansas City, and it just so happened to coincide with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys. Have you already put in that request to Trey to go that weekend? Because I have pleaded my case to spend time with my grandma with Tommy this morning. He's just not having it.
Listen, I am in there, brother, and I'll put up as much of a fight as I can to make that happen. But no, I mean, that just sounds like an incredible weekend, overall. Just from a sheer basketball standpoint, you take a look at some of the competition there, Kansas State, that's exciting, a possibility. Cincinnati with a new coach, they're adding guys left and right. And then obviously Illinois, any of those matchups Arkansas could wind up with would be awesome. Then to add the possibility of getting a little NFL action in there, that's definitely a trip I'm hoping to make. I got to get with Trey and talk about expensing that for sure.
Yeah.
Curtis, last thing before we let you go, buddy. The Preakness is this weekend. We've had some fun this morning. If you had 100 are horses $100,000, Tommy? How much are those race horses?
Medina Spirit was purchased, who won the Kentucky Derby for now, at least, was purchased for $1,000, and then last year was purchased as a 2-year-old for $35,000.
Okay,
they're not always as expensive as you think.
So let's say
some are, some aren't.
Curtis, let's say you have $35,000 lying around, which we all, of course, do.
Yeah, under the couch cushions, right?
What would you name? What would you name your horse, buddy? Before we let you go.
Well, I got to tell you, a lot of times when people name these horses, there's a personal touch to it. Maybe something that's near or dear to them. And for me, I think probably the last 6-7 weeks, my life has revolved around, following Eric Musselman through this transfer deal. So, if I had to name a horse, I'd probably name it Portal Season, and and we just see what we get from there.
Oh, it works, man. Curtis Wilkerson, Hog Sports, always good content there. Curtis, we appreciate your time this morning, talking to us and giving some insight on Coach Smart, the basketball team, and it was a good time as always, man. We got to catch up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the show, guys. Listen to you every morning. I'd be happy to come on anytime. Appreciate you.
And you still came on? You listen every day, and you still came on the show?
I'm a fan. What can I say?
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. That'd be the name of the horse.
He's the only one.
Bless your heart.
He's the one. Appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, thank you, guys.